Welcome back, Idaho Sports Talk. It's going to be a fun week. First off, it's October, so there's just almost too much going around the sports scene. We're Prater and the ball game in Prater.
What do you mean too much? What do you mean too much?
There's a lot on your plate.
NBA starts tomorrow. Can you handle that, big boy?
No. Yeah, I can.
Yes, you can.
I'll have that on.
Of all people who can handle that, you can.
I'll have the late game on. I will have the late NBA game on tomorrow. But you even said it yourself, I'm going to watch playoff baseball. Just as long as the Golden Knights aren't playing, the Utah Jazz aren't playing, there's not an NFL game going on or a college football game on, then hunt for October, baseball, I love you. Yeah,
we always say that October is the best month of the year. So plus you can still get outside for a little bit and goof around and do the outside things. It's the most beautiful month of the year, ball game.
I love it, man. We're going to hear from Dirk Koetter and Andy Avalos here in a second, but a very emotional weekend. A lot of us sports fans had, certainly in this state. If you're an Idaho State Bengal fan, you got to win with Charlie Ragel's debut victory. The Vandals going and stealing, jacking, pillaging back the little brown stein from the heart of Missoula. Boise State on a bye week. You're Utah Utes. So a great weekend I want to get into. We opened the show with that talk. We're going to get back to it in about 10 minutes.
Thanks for just kind of sliding in the Utes. More love.
Prater stormed the field. He doesn't, but you don't say it's storm it. You didn't storm anything.
I sauntered.
Good word, man. All right. Andy Avalos and Dirk Koetter spoke to the media.
They sauntered today to the podium to talk about the bye week.
They did, and Andy Avalos started us off. He talked about Dirk Koetter and Taylen Green getting to spend, more time together this past week than before.
Taylen and coach, they spent a lot of time. I mean, they looked at a lot of football together, and more specific, the plays that Taylen's played thus far this season, his 2 starts and what we can do to build off that going forward, the things that he does well in the run game and the improvements in the run game that we can continue to make with his decision making and the things he's doing. But the big part obviously was the pass game too, and how do we continue to build that confidence? What are the things that he is confident in that he can do well consistently, and then being able to put a plan together, show that plan in the meeting rooms, and take it to the field. In a bye week like this, you get a lot of individual time, but it's not just the quarterbacks, it's the timing with the wide receivers and the various pass concepts and things like that you get extra time at. You're able to focus on yourself. You're not so much concerned about different defensive structures, coverages, things like that. You're able to really focus on that rhythm. And we spent some time this past week working on those things.
Did you notice that and that's the last you'll hear of Andy Avalos today. The rest of this stuff was all Dirk Koetter talking about what he did with Taylen Green over the last couple of days. And we got some other stuff that we'll use this week on Air Force and getting ready. But did you notice that Avalos in his left ear, I thought for a minute he had an earring.
Didn't notice anything.
There was something
on his ear today.
He either had a new earring or there was like a piece of confetti stuck in his ear that was shining. It was sparkling and shining.
I'm going to check my phone. I took some pictures of him today.
It was only when the light came perfectly shining on his left ear. I think it was a piece of confetti from the Fresno State victory. I just don't think he ever got rid of it.
Oh gosh, I didn't see that, but interesting.
All right, here's Dirk Koetter. The rest of this stuff is about Dirk Koetter. We're going to get a little goofy here at the end of this interview because we had some fun with Dirk Koetter, but really the serious part of today was Dirk Koetter and Taylen Green and how they spent all this time together and from Dirk Cutter's perspective. And he was pretty candid and pretty forthright in getting together and talking about Taylen Green. Here's where Dirk Koetter talked about Taylen Green, especially the passing emphasis over the past bye week.
Taylen is not anything close to the quarterback right now that he's going to be. You can probably say that for a lot of freshmen or redshirt freshmen that are starting. And the only way you get better at that is through experience, through live reps. So, progress is being made. We haven't had to rely on our passing game because we've had a strong running game. There's going to come a time when we are going to need our passing game. We tried to throw it early against Fresno, and we did get off to a good start throwing, but then we kind of hit a little lull. We obviously have to eliminate turnovers. We can't turn it over backed up, and we've done that a couple times. But Taylen he's going to be much improved as a passer over time. Just how fast that comes, that's remains to be seen.
Sounds like last week you spent a lot of time with Taylen. What were the priorities? What were the results?
Well, the results, we won't measure those till we get to Air Force this week and then games ahead. But, just a few things like we just grouped up all of his passes going clear back to the Oregon State game when he had significant time, and these two games, watched everything by concept. And I just let him talk. Like, what are you seeing here? What do you think about this decision? What do you think about your timing? He's probably real tired of hearing me talk. So I wanted him to be able to talk me through it, what he's seeing, why he's making the decisions he's making, what type of throws. Part of a quarterback's job is to not make plays worse. Like, sometimes it's just a bad play. I mean, they're not all perfect, and the defense, those guys are on scholarship too. So knowing is real hard to know when to cut our losses and move on. A hard lesson to learn. So Talon and Sam are learning that lesson. It was just a good chance. We had a lot of time in the classroom, but then on the field, those 3 bonus days of practice where we could just take certain concepts and work on concepts that we know we're going to carry through, passing concepts that we're going to carry throughout the season. That was beneficial. Now, the payoff doesn't come until game day, so we won't know that.
That's Dirk Koetter again earlier today talking about the relationship with Talon Green, Sam Vidlac as well, and what they've been working on. And I love what he said. First off, luckily for Talon Green and everybody else in that quarterback room, they're getting a high level education into the intricacies and how to play the quarterback position at an NFL Pro Bowl type of level, right? I mean, this is Dirk Koetter teaching the position to however many quarterbacks are in that room, and that is a big time opportunity for those kids to get this level of education, Prater. Yeah. I loved how he said, I let him talk.
Yeah.
I went through every pass play he's ever made. What did you see? What was the coverage? Where were you going? What was your progression? Why don't you just let him talk and talk football with him? I thought that was just an excellent way to describe that for Dirk Koetter on that. And he also, he wasn't easy on these kids. And Dirk Koetter made a point today to say, hey, we coach these kids hard.
I try to give those guys a lot, based on what comes up in practice every day and what's on the tape. So once again, I'm sure they're all sick of hearing me, but I'm coaching those guys hard. I'm coaching those guys hard. They're getting the full ball of wax, and I get on them a lot. But then when we're in the meeting room and we're talking through things and they're going back over it, I mean, I have high expectations no matter how much experience we have for those guys, because the team's dependent on them. I mean, the quarterback touches the ball every play. So, I'm sure there'll be things that those guys remember when I'm not here, but whoever the new guy that's coaching them, he's going to have his coaching points as well. But, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm thinking about, like, what do we got to do this week to score points against Air Force?
You were saying when you got here that, obviously you had him as a, years ago, you might tweak some things mechanically with Talon and Sam, but on short time, what specifically are you doing to try and, kind of make them better passers?
Yeah, timing. I mean, that's mostly timing. It's mostly footwork. Like we talked about the separation. So the quarterback's footwork, his timing and his release have to be in sync with the route depth and the break point. And when they're not, you got to fix it on one end or the other, or it's not going to fix itself. So mostly that kind of stuff.
All right, let's switch over to the offensive line. Dirk Koetter obviously has a role in the offensive line as well as the offensive coordinator. Here's Dirk Koetter talking about the offensive line and what it's looked like the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I think they're doing a good job. I think they gaining confidence, playing physical, finishing at a much higher rate. But I think the main word in there is they're playing with a lot more confidence, and I think they were much maligned, maybe for not as much reason as needed to be, because I think it's a pretty good group. And one thing to consider is probably haven't had our best 5 out there yet in any game this year.
The one thing that I was curious about when he says confidence, how does an offensive lineman get confidence just in a couple of weeks? I mean, 3 weeks ago, this was a crappy offensive line, and now it's a confident offensive line. How does that evolution work, Coach Koetter?
No big changes, except I think one of the biggest things that helps the line and the tight ends is when you're able to repeat runs, when you're able to, that's just one thing that, I mean, I was fortunate to be around some great running backs, Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew, Steven Jackson, and those guys all tell you they need to see the looks more than one time. And I think as coaches, I know I was guilty of this plenty of times. You run a run in the first quarter and you gain 2 yards, and then you don't run that run again the rest of the game. And I think if you've watched us the last 2 weeks, our run game is nothing fancy. We run the same plays, but I think when the guys get to see the same looks more than a couple times in a game, it helps them.
Some big name running backs that Coach Koetter's been a part of, sure, and receivers as well. He has, and he was asked earlier today in his press conference, Dirk Koetter was, about the wide receivers. Are they getting separation? Are they being more productive over the bye week? Has it been execution, or has it been play calling?
Both. It's on design, and it's on them, and that's one of those things that we worked hard on last week that I mentioned. Easy thing to talk about, harder thing to get done, but we're working on it.
How do you do that? How do you create more separation from a play call?
Well, some of it is route depth, angle of departure. What kind of releases do we take? Instead of always just being in a straight line, are we changing up our releases? Do we help them with stacks and bunches? There's different ways to do it, but at the end of the day, if a defense, especially defense is playing man coverage, it comes down to man on man. And at the break point, the receiver has to separate and the quarterback has to put it on the money. Oh, by the way, the O-line has to protect. So, there's a few moving parts there.
All right. Now, toward the end of the press conference today, about 15, 16, 17 minutes with Coach Koetter, we had a little bit of fun with him in terms of finding out how much he's known this team. They threw him into the fire, 3 weeks ago. He's been the offensive coordinator for this football team. And one of the reporters at the press conference today asked him how much he knows this football team now.
There's still a lot of guys I don't know. No, there's still lots of these teams are big, man. There's a lot of guys out there, and I see them mostly with helmets on. I mean, obviously I see the offensive guys more, but like I'll see defensive guys on the field and I know them by their number, and then they'll come up to me over there and I have no idea who they are. That just takes a while, and I got to admit I haven't really tried that hard. I mean, I've been busy with other things, so I need to get the little picture ID out and carry it around with me.
Advice to any Boise State players who are listening: if you haven't formally introduced yourself yet to offensive coordinator Dirk Koetter, please go ahead and do so. Let's get them to know these guys on this team. And finally, with Dirk Koetter earlier today, he talked about just how his life has changed in the couple of the weeks, and one big part of coaching that Dirk doesn't necessarily have to do.
I really enjoy being around the players. Obviously, the 2 games have been a lot of fun, minus the first half of San Diego State. The grind part of football is why I wasn't doing it anymore. That it is a grind. As I said last time, these guys work their tails off. We got done practicing Thursday. I went to McCall golfing. All these other guys went recruiting for 2 days. It's hard. The grind is long, and there's reward to it, but my reward for that is in the past. But I have really enjoyed practice and being around the players. When I hit the practice field, I'm just coaching ball, and then the games, you're playing chess with real live guys. That's fun, and it's fun to see these guys have success. I've enjoyed that.
What kind of role will you play in recruiting in terms of, it sounds like you're not going to travel, but will you look at film every now and then if somebody asks you? Or
No, I'm not. I'm out of recruiting. No.
Not evaluation, nothing.
I mean, if they ask me to do something, I'll do it, but they haven't been asking me that.
No recruiting for Dirk
I went
Koetter.
golfing. They all hopped on a plane and went recruiting for 2 days. That's pretty cool.
Can you imagine like a real, not that he's not a real offensive coordinator, but if he was like the permanent offensive coordinator, he pulled the Tom Brady and said, you guys go to Texas and California and recruit and chase 18-year-olds and tell mom stories that you don't really believe. I'm going with my buddies to McCall to play golf.
Yeah, and I honestly think most offensive coordinators would probably pass on that because they want to be allowed to shop for some of the groceries when they have to cook the meal, right? They want to get out and recruit and meet these guys. Dirk, no, I'm on a 1-year deal here.
What year?
Who do you think he golfs with?
Oh, I know at least 2 of them.
Okay,
so,
you
yeah.
son of Prater. I know 2 of them. I love it, man. An emotional weekend for Prater, for myself. maybe for you. Are you a Bengal fan? Are you a Vandal fan? Boise State on a bye week. All the things that came into it. I'll throw in for Prater. You a Utah Ute fan?
A couple of us around here.
Big time emotional weekend. We'll take calls and texts at 208-424-9300 as well. It's Prater in the ball game. JP, real quick, our sweet deal this week is Granny C's Bakery. You give us $50. You give us $25. I always mess that up. You give us 25, we'll give you 50 to spend at Granny C's Bakery. That's 9 a.m. at KTIK.com.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this